What's going on, guys? AutoMadeEasy here. Today we are going to be learning how to change the battery in our remote key fob for our cars or trucks. So I have four different style of keys here. We're going to change the batteries in each of them. So what you're going to need to get this done is obviously your key fob, an assortment of screwdrivers, particularly small ones. I really hope we're not going to need something this big, but good to have just in case. And replacement batteries. So the batteries, they're just watch batteries. You can get them from Walmart, you can get them from the dollar store, anywhere really. They do not all take the same battery though. In this case they do. It's a CR2032. If your model may be different, you can Google it and find out which battery you're going to need to get that done. So some of the symptoms here to identify that you need to change the battery is, you'll lock your car, but it won't unlock and lock. Or you'll have to be extremely close to your car for it to actually pick up the signal and work. Or what I noticed on this Civic one here is that when we go to use the remote start is the first thing that starts to go. So the unlock and lock will work fine. It'll beep when we lock it, all that stuff, but the remote start tends to go first, okay? So we're gonna work left to right here. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how to actually get this apart to get this going. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, get started here. I'm going to show you guys how we're going to go about changing the battery. So after you got everything set up, you're going to get your key. I took them off the keychain just for the sake. You don't necessarily have to. What we have here is a Civic. It has a key built in. So you slide this, remove the actual key, right? We're going to set that aside. We don't need that. Now, we have to actually pry this apart. Now, some shops actually, don't even do this because it's such a small task to them that for what they charge and the risk involved, it's not worth it. I've had a couple shops say, no, they're not going to change it because there's a lot of small electronics in here and they don't want to damage it. It's just not worth the risk for them, which is true in some cases, but I don't want that to scare you guys. It is very easy to do. You just need to be careful, okay? So we're going to go ahead and get a screwdriver. And on this particular model, we're going to go ahead, we're just going to pry it apart. So if you can see all the way along, even before I split it there's a seam. That's where the two pieces meet. So you can see that was very, very easy, very little force that it took there. So just between the seams, turn, done. What you don't want to do is jam it in there and start digging in the plastic. And, that's what's going to kind of gouge up your key fob. And that's what you do not want to do, right? So very, very simple. And what you want to try and do is pry it apart with your fingers. And there you go. Very easy to do. Now, this car is a little bit newer, so that was easier to get apart. If you have one that's been sitting around for a while, it's got crud between the seams, hasn't been changed in a while, years perhaps, you may have issues getting it apart. Now, what we can see is we have the same style battery here. One good thing to do before you actually remove the battery is to note the orientation. So we can see the positive is facing us on the front here. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to remove the battery, set that aside. Go ahead and get a new one. We're just going to put the battery in there. And if you look here, there's tabs right here. Okay. You want to make sure the battery's sitting under those tabs. You want to make sure it's seated properly before you put it back. And then we're just going to go ahead. We're going to make sure that this is lined up and on both sides. And we give it a push. And you hear it click. And that's it. Now key fob will be changed. So moving over to just a different style here. Very same idea with all of them. So here's a key for an Infinity. Same thing. There's an actual key in there. We're going to remove that. Set that aside. Now we're going to go ahead and start taking this one apart. Okay. So as we can see, the seam is right here all the way around. So looking for somewhere to get in between. Look at that. That was easy. Use the smallest screwdriver there, turn that, popped right apart. Now, these are the small electronics, very visible on this one here that we're talking about, right? So if you started getting in there with the screwdriver a little bit too aggressively, you can damage all these contacts here. And, that can actually prevent your key fob from not working or from not functioning properly, right? So looking at the Infinity key here is actually a diagram. Shows which side, positive and negative, which side goes down and up, right? So looking at it, we can see the negative side is facing us. So same idea, and try and get it out. Now, it's kind of hard to get your finger in there. You can use a flathead to kind of pry it out. Set that aside. Make sure the orientation is the same. So no tabs on this one, but what you can see is it's got this metal ring. Put that side in first and kind of push against it because there is a little bit of a spring there. Okay, then same idea. Line it up, give it a push, and that's that. Slide the key back in. Very easy. Okay, so moving on to this Volkswagen key. We're going to press this button here, slide out the key. Then this top piece, it actually slides over and removes. So if you just give it a push, see how it moved over just a little bit there. You're going to separate that, okay? And then this is an example here, see at the top, or it looks like it'd be a good spot to maybe get the screwdriver and pry it apart there. This, you can tell the previous owner has chewed this up a bit. It is an older car. Probably has been a few different owners, multiple batteries through the key fob have been changed. And what you can tell is like, you know, the key fob still snaps together, it still functions correctly, but it's all chewed up there. So somebody obviously went a little too aggressive with the flathead there. Didn't really take their time when looking to get this thing taken apart here. So that's something that you do want to avoid. Like I said, still works, still functions, still works, but doesn't look too nice. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the smallest screwdriver. Once again, we can see the seam here. Okay, so what we're going to try and do is just find a spot where it easily gets in there and we can kind of pry it apart. Use your thumb to kind of hold it. Work our way around the key. Just kind of using the screwdriver there as a placeholder. See if this is a good spot. There we go. Just caught a little bit on the edge. Definitely didn't help that this is kind of, like I said, buggered up a little bit. So looking at this key fob, it does have a little bit of a protection here. You know, you're not, compared to the Infinity key, you cannot see all of those little internal parts, right? So now that we have this taken apart, you can see right here, obviously the positives facing up. You can even see this side here, positives. So it then go down. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to pry that out carefully. And, you know, on a lot of them, you can see right there, it's actually a little slot, just so you can get something in there and, you know, your finger, screwdriver, a little pick, whatever it is, to be able to get it in there. Make sure that's pushed down. Line up the seams. Snap that back together. Then we're going to go ahead and put this piece back on. Key back in. There we go. And on to the last style here. This is another Volkswagen key. No, it's a switchblade key, so there's no key to actually remove there. But we are going to have to flip the key out. Then you can see there's a spot right in here that we can use to separate the key. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, keys are then going to pull apart. Now the battery is not in this portion. It's in this one here, okay? So there's actually another little slot. You can see it's got a little bit of damage right there where we can get in there. It starts to pry apart. Now sometimes you do need to use your finger just to kind of hold it because it does want to retract back in until you have it fully seated. So here's an example, right? Exposed contacts. So when I had this together like this, you know, I'm just there turning like this. If I'm pushing and jamming the screwdriver in there, and let's say it frees up, that's going to go right through, hit those contacts. That's something that you do not want to do, okay? So there's the battery taking note of the orientation here. So we have the negative facing up. We're going to want to get into the side here, flip this up, set that aside. Get a new one installed, and then you can see it says positive facing the bottom there. Put this together. Wait till you hear the click. Slide this back. And you're good. Okay. All right. And that's how to change your battery on multiple different key fobs. Every time you have a car that requires a key fob, most newer ones do, at some point in time, you are going to need to change it. It's just the way of life. Depending on how long is going to depend on your climate. Obviously, if the battery is going through a lot of different temperature cycles, freezing cold to very hot, and then depending on how much you use it is really going to depend on how often that you need to change it. So thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, some stuff that you'd like to see, some future videos, some suggestions for when you are working on delicate stuff like this. I will reply to all your comments. Thanks again for watching.